Her hands trembled as she finally spoke the words she'd kept locked inside for years. "I'm not fit for any man," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. But what happened next would change everything. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt content that reminds us of the power of human connection. Your support means the world to us. Emma Collins had always been the invisible one. At 32, she'd mastered the art of blending into backgrounds, of making herself small enough to disappear in plain sight. It wasn't always this way. Once, she'd been vibrant and full of dreams, before the accident that left her with a pronounced limp and scars that mapped her right side like constellations. The library where she worked had become her sanctuary. Books didn't judge. They didn't stare or whisper when she walked by. Between the shelves of worn paperbacks and hardcovers, Emma found peace in the quiet and purpose in helping others find their perfect story. That Tuesday afternoon started like any other. Rain tapped gently against the windows as Emma organized the returns cart. The library was nearly empty, just a few regulars huddled over computers and a mother with her young daughter in the children's section. "Excuse me," a deep voice broke through her concentration. "My son is looking for books about dinosaurs. Could you point us in the right direction?" Emma turned to find herself looking up at a tall man with kind eyes and a 5-year-old boy clutching his hand. The man's smile was warm, genuine in a way that made Emma immediately self-conscious. "Of course," she replied, instinctively shifting her weight to hide her limp. "The dinosaur books are just over here." As she led them to the children's non-fiction section, Emma felt the familiar weight of eyes on her back. She'd grown accustomed to the stares, the quick glances away when she turned around. But when she looked back at the man, Daniel, as she would later learn, he wasn't staring at her scars or her limp. He was looking at her face, listening intently as she explained which books might be best for his son, Noah. "You really know your dinosaurs," Daniel said with a laugh as Emma knelt down to show Noah a book about pterodactyls. "I've had a lot of practice," she replied, smiling despite herself. "This little guy isn't the first dinosaur enthusiast to come through these doors." Noah beamed up at her. "Do you have a favorite dinosaur?" "Triceratops," Emma answered without hesitation. "They're strong but gentle." "That's my favorite too," Noah exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Something shifted in that moment, a small crack in the wall Emma had built around herself. As they checked out the books, Daniel asked if she was always at the library on Tuesdays. When she nodded, he smiled and said they'd be back next week. True to his word, Daniel and Noah returned the following Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that. Their visits became a highlight of Emma's week. Noah would rush to tell her about the dinosaur facts he'd learned, while Daniel would linger, asking about book recommendations for himself. 3 months into their Tuesday ritual, Daniel asked Emma if she'd like to join them for ice cream after her shift. "Oh, I don't think," Emma started, panic rising in her chest. "Please, Miss Emma," Noah pleaded. "Dad says you work too hard and deserve ice cream." Daniel's cheeks flushed. "I might have mentioned that, yes." Against her better judgment, Emma agreed. That afternoon marked the beginning of a friendship that slowly blossomed into something more. Ice cream outings became dinner at the local diner, which evolved into movie nights at Daniel's house after Noah went to bed. Emma learned that Daniel had lost his wife to cancer when Noah was just a year old. He'd been raising his son alone ever since, balancing his work as an architect with parenthood. "It's been just the two of us for so long," Daniel confessed one evening as they sat on his porch swing. "Until we met you." Emma felt her heart constrict. She'd been falling for Daniel, and for Noah, but had convinced herself it could never work. That she wasn't whole enough, wasn't normal enough for a man like Daniel. The following weekend, Daniel invited Emma to Noah's 6th birthday party at the local park. She arrived early to help set up, her arms full of carefully wrapped dinosaur books and a handmade triceratops stuffed animal she'd stayed up 3 nights sewing. The party was small but joyful, just a few of Noah's kindergarten friends and their parents. Emma found herself chatting with the other adults, momentarily forgetting her insecurities as she helped serve cake and organized games. It wasn't until she overheard 2 mothers talking that the familiar shame came rushing back. "That's the woman Daniel's been seeing," one whispered. "The librarian with the..." She gestured vaguely to her leg. "Really? I mean, she seems nice, but I thought he'd end up with someone more, you know." Emma slipped away, finding a quiet bench at the edge of the playground. The happiness she'd felt all day evaporated, replaced by the cold certainty that she'd been fooling herself. Daniel deserved someone whole, someone who could keep up with him and Noah, someone who wouldn't draw stares when they went out together. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice Daniel approaching until he sat beside her. "Hey, you disappeared," he said softly. "Everything okay?" Emma looked at him, this kind, wonderful man who had somehow become the center of her world, and knew she had to end things before she fell any deeper. "I can't do this anymore, Daniel," she whispered. His brow furrowed. "Do what? What's happened?" "This. Us." Emma gestured between them. "I've been pretending that this could work, but we both know it can't." "Emma, what are you talking about?" The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. "Look at me, Daniel. Really look. I'm broken. I'm not fit for any man, especially not someone like you. You and Noah deserve someone whole, someone normal." Daniel was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Emma braced herself for his agreement, for the gentle letdown she knew was coming. Instead, he took her hand and led her to his car. "Wait here," he said, before walking back to ask one of the other parents to watch Noah for a few minutes. When he returned, he drove them to a quiet spot overlooking the city. Without a word, he rolled up his pant leg to reveal a prosthetic limb where his left leg should have been. "IED in Afghanistan," he explained quietly. 8 years ago. "I never showed you because it doesn't define me, just like your scars don't define you." Emma stared, speechless. "When I look at you," Daniel continued, "I don't see someone broken or unfit. I see the woman who lights up when she talks about books. I see the person who spent hours making a stuffed dinosaur for my son. I see someone who has faced pain and kept going." He gently turned her face toward his. "We're all scarred, Emma. Some of us just wear our scars on the outside. But people stare," she whispered. "They talk." "Let them," Daniel replied. "Their opinions don't matter. What matters is this." He placed her hand over his heart. "And this," he touched her chest where her own heart beat wildly. "Noah adores you. And I." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I'm falling in love with you, Emma Collins. All of you. Your mind, your heart, your strength. The way you see the world. The way you've changed mine." Emma's tears flowed freely now, but they were different, cleansing rather than bitter. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too," Daniel said with a small smile. "Love is terrifying. But I think it's worth it. Don't you?" When they returned to the party, Noah ran to them immediately. "Where did you go? You almost missed the dinosaur piñata." Emma knelt down, ignoring the twinge in her bad leg. "I'm sorry, buddy. I wouldn't have missed it for the world." Noah threw his arms around her neck. "It's okay. Dad says sometimes grown-ups need to talk about important stuff." "He's right," Emma said, looking up at Daniel. "Very important stuff." That evening, after the party had ended and they'd cleaned up the park, Daniel invited Emma back to their house. As Noah played with his new toys in the living room, Daniel pulled Emma into the kitchen. "I want you to know something," he said quietly. "When Sarah died, I thought that was it for me. I figured Noah and I would be on our own forever, and I was okay with that. But then you walked into our lives, or rather, we walked into your library, and everything changed. He took her hands in his. You're not just fit for any man, Emma. You're perfect for this man. And for that little boy in there who talks about you non-stop. 6 months later, Emma moved out of her small apartment and into Daniel and Noah's home. The transition wasn't always smooth. Noah tested boundaries, Emma struggled with feeling like she belonged, and Daniel worked to balance everyone's needs. But they faced each challenge together, growing stronger as a family with each obstacle overcome. On their 1-year anniversary, Daniel took Emma back to the library where they'd first met. He'd arranged with her boss to close early, filling the children's section with fairy lights and flowers. I wanted to bring you back to where it all began, Daniel said as he led her between the shelves. This place that you love so much, where you helped a lost single dad and his dinosaur-obsessed son find not just books, but a new beginning. In the center of the children's reading circle stood Noah, dressed in his Sunday best, holding a small velvet box. Dad said I get to be the ring bearer, he announced proudly, presenting the box to his father. Daniel took it with a smile before turning to Emma. You once told me you weren't fit for any man. I hope this past year has shown you how wrong you were. He dropped to one knee, his prosthetic one, Emma noted with a surge of love, and opened the box to reveal a vintage sapphire ring. Emma Collins, you've given Noah and me more joy than we ever thought possible. You've shown us that family isn't about being perfect, it's about being perfectly imperfect together. Will you marry us? Emma looked from Daniel to Noah, who was bouncing on his toes with excitement, and felt the final pieces of her old insecurities fall away. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes. As Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, Noah launched himself into their embrace, creating a tangle of limbs and laughter. Does this mean I can call you Mom now? Noah asked, his eyes serious. Emma's heart swelled. I would be honored, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. Their wedding was held the following spring in the community garden behind the library. Emma walked down the aisle with her head held high, her limp visible in her slow, measured steps, but her eyes fixed on the two people waiting for her at the altar, her future husband and son. As she reached them, Noah handed her a small triceratops figurine. For strength, he whispered, repeating the words she'd told him about her favorite dinosaur so long ago. Daniel's eyes shone with tears as he took her hands. You are the strongest person I know, he said for her ears alone. In that moment, surrounded by friends and the family they had built together, Emma finally understood that her scars, both physical and emotional, weren't marks of brokenness but badges of survival. They were part of her story, just as Daniel's prosthetic leg was part of his, and Noah's early loss of his mother was part of his. They weren't broken. They were beautifully, perfectly human. 5 years later, Emma sat in the library reading circle, now as the head librarian, with a group of children gathered around her. Noah, now 11, sat at the back, pretending to be too old for story time but listening intently nonetheless. Beside him sat his 3-year-old sister, Lily, named after Emma's favorite flower. As Emma finished reading the story about a dinosaur who thought he was too different to find friends, a little girl raised her hand. Miss Emma, why do you walk funny? She asked with the innocent directness of childhood. The room went quiet. Noah straightened, protective instinct flaring, but Emma smiled gently. I was in an accident a long time ago, she explained. It left me with some scars and made my leg work differently than most people's. Does it make you sad? The child persisted. Emma considered the question, aware of all the children watching her closely. Sometimes it used to, she admitted. But then I learned something important. Our differences, the things that make us unique, they're not something to be ashamed of. They're part of what makes us who we are. She glanced at Noah, who was nodding slightly, then at Lily, who was watching her with complete trust. And the people who truly love us, Emma continued, love all of us, our strengths and our struggles, our joys and our sorrows. They love us not in spite of our differences, but with them. Later that evening, as Emma tucked Lily into bed, Daniel appeared in the doorway, having overheard her conversation with Noah about what happened at story time. "You know what I was thinking today?" he asked as they walked downstairs together. "What's that?" "About that day at Noah's birthday party, when you told me you weren't fit for any man." He pulled her close. "I'm so glad I got to prove you wrong." Emma rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Me too," she whispered. "Me too." In the quiet of their home, with their children sleeping safely upstairs, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the woman who hid in the shadows of the library to the person she was now, confident, loved, and complete not despite her imperfections but with them. She had learned that being fit for love wasn't about physical perfection or meeting some arbitrary standard. It was about having the courage to be vulnerable, to show your scars, both literal and figurative, and trust that the right people would see beyond them to the heart beneath. And in finding that courage, Emma had discovered not just love, but family, purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that she was enough, exactly as she was. If you found this story touching, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that celebrates the beauty of human connection and reminds us that our perceived flaws often lead us to our greatest strengths. Share in the comments if you've ever felt not enough, and how you overcame those feelings. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.